Economics is mainly concerned about the three main questions, namely the what, how, and for whom the various goods and services are produced and distributed. The main focus is on production. Hence, it is logical to say economists are more concerned about total production of goods and services. However, produced goods must be used or consumed by individuals as they satisfy their wants. Therefore, the logical flow of the main elements of an economic system is as follows. Production creates income. That is, income earned in the production process by the different factors of production. And this income is then spent to purchase the various goods and services that consumers or households require to satisfy their wants. In practice, this process happens at the same time, meaning there is a continuous circular flow of production, income, and spending in the economy. For example, as the baker is baking bread in a firm, he earns a salary which he uses some of it to purchase necessities or other luxury goods for him and his children. The figure 2.1 illustrates the continuous nature of the three major flows in the economy. That is, production creates income for the various factors of production, namely rent, wages and salaries, interest, and profits. All these incomes are then used or spent fully or in part to purchase goods and services. In a mixed economy, the spending is done by four main sectors of the economy, namely households, firms, government, and the foreign sector. For our analysis, we will focus only on the interdependence between households and firms for now. For the circular flow to work smoothly, there should be exchange possible, usually in a market. For example, goods and services are exchanged in the goods market, whilst factors of production are exchanged in the factor market. As mentioned previously, our focus is mainly on the interdependence between households and firms as the initial building blocks, and then we will add the other sectors in the macro section of the course. A household can be defined as all the people who live together and who make joint economic decisions, or who are subjected to others who make such decisions for them. Therefore, a household is a basic decision-making unit in the economy. The household is composed of one person, a family, or a group of people. Hence, every individual is a member of a household. These members or individuals within a household owns the factors of production and sells these factors, that is labor and capital, on the factor markets to firms. In exchange for the service of their factors of production, households receive an income in the form of salaries and wages, interest, rent, and profits. This income is now used to purchase consumer goods and services in the goods market. These goods and services are then consumed to satisfy human wants. The act of consuming the goods and services is called consumption. We used a symbol capital letter C to indicate total spending by households in an economy. In economic analysis, households are assumed to be rational, meaning they will always attempt to maximize their satisfaction given the means at their disposal. A firm can be defined as the unit that employs factors of production to produce goods and services that are sold in the goods market. These are the basic productive units in an economy, simply implying that firms are primarily concerned about production of goods and services. Therefore, they buy factors of production in the factor markets and convert or transform them into goods and services that meet the needs of the consumers. The goods and services will be sold by firms in the goods market. For the firm to transform factors of production into goods, they need to purchase capital goods. The act of purchasing capital goods is called investment, normally denoted by a capital letter I in economic analysis. More so, in economic analysis, firms are assumed to be rational, meaning they will always aim to achieve the maximum profit. Recall that a market is any contact or communication between potential buyers and potential sellers of a good or service. In the real world, there are a number of markets where either consumer goods and services are traded nor the factors of production are purchased or sold. Therefore, the term goods market represents a summation of all the individual or different markets for consumer goods and services, whereas the term factor market also represents the summation of all the individual or different markets where factors of production are sold. In macroeconomics, we tend to aggregate all the different markets to either represent the goods market or the factor market, as if there is only one market in the economy. However, in microeconomics, we examined each individual market separately. With the above mentioned knowledge, now we can illustrate the interaction between households and firms with the aid of a simple diagram called a circular flow diagram. Let's start with the circular flow diagram of goods and services. We have in our diagram our two main units, that is the households and the firms, and our two main markets in which the actions of the two units interact. The two main markets is the factor markets and the goods market. Therefore, households sell their factors of production in the factor market and firms purchase these factors of production. The firms convert the factors of production into goods and services which are then sold in the goods market. The households then purchase these goods and services from the goods market to satisfy their human wants. Another way to show the interaction of households and firms is through a circular flow diagram of income and spending. The firms purchase the factors of production in the factor markets. This spending by firm represents income in the form of wages and salaries, rent, interest and profits of the households. The households in turn spend their income in the goods market purchasing goods and services that satisfy their human wants. This spending by households represent income to firm. I believe you have noted that the income and spending flow is a monetary flow which flows in the opposite direction to the flow of the goods and services circular flow we just completed. From the interaction between households and firms, one can deduce that there are three main economic activities going on, namely production, exchange and consumption. That is, the different rational production units are producing profitable goods and services which are then exchanged or traded to rational consumers that eventually consume them and receive the maximum satisfaction. Production is characterized by specialization, whereby specialization creates wealth. The gains from specialization can only be realized if they exist in exchange. Therefore, to enable exchange, what should each factor of production, firm or individual or country specialize in? The answer lies in the opportunity cost. The law of comparative advantage, which states that the output of a group of individual, an entire economy or a group of countries will be greatest when the output of each good is produced by a person, firm or country with the lowest opportunity cost for that good. To illustrate why this is the case, let's consider a scenario. Suppose we have two individuals in a primitive society. Let's call them Simba and Tom. Tom is better at both fishing and hunting than Simba, implying that in a day Tom can catch more fish and animals as compared to what Simba can do. Since Tom has an absolute advantage in both fishing and hunting, does this mean that there is no scope for mutually beneficial specialization and change? No, the answer lies in comparative or relative advantage. Although Tom can do better on both fishing and hunting than Simba, there is one between fishing and hunting that he does relatively much better as compared to the other. Hence, Tom should specialize in the good or activity where he is relatively better or have the lowest opportunity cost, and then leave the other activity for Simba to do. Then at the end of the day, they can exchange or trade meat for fish. This type of exchange can only happen as long as the opportunity cost differs between the two individuals. In modern economics, prices play an important role in signaling as well as a medium of exchange. However, it is crucial to distinguish between absolute prices and relative prices. Absolute prices represent the actual price of a product. For example, at a particular time, the price of fish is 15 rand and that of a kilogram of meat is 120 rand. These are the absolute prices of these goods, like the prices we find in the shops for specific goods. Relative prices represents the cost of one good in comparison to another. For example, the price of fish increased by or to 20 rand. So if it increased by 5 rand, then from 15 rand it will now be 20 rand. Then that of meat remained the same. Then one would note that the absolute price of meat did not change, but it has now become relatively cheaper. That means meat now costs only 6 times as expensive as a fish as compared to 8 times as expensive as a fish before the change from 15 rand to 20 rand.